To share with you our proposal for Evergreen Valor residents. I'm Ryan Bender. With me today is Krenna Blackwell, Deontay Chappelle Jr., Ricky Roach, and last but not least, Aiden Wishaw. We will be focusing on the importance of affordable housing in the historic East Side neighborhood, the overall market background of the city of Jacksonville, the community impact our development will provide, the site development, and our financials for our property. I would now like to pass it over to Karenna, who will begin with the background of the historic East Side neighborhood.
Thank you, Ryan. The East Side neighborhood of Jacksonville is brimming with history, culture, and community. While there were many Black neighborhoods in Jacksonville in the past, the East Side is the last one not yet gentrified or modified by highway construction, which has happened in many other Black communities throughout the United States. The East Side became an oasis of safety for African Americans in the post Civil War time period, as Jim Crow laws enforcing segregation created redlining, and a community with their own restaurants, schools, and churches was formed as a result. Additionally, the East Side is full of culture through remaining marks of the Gullah Geechee people who continued with their native language, ceremonial customs, and rhythmic music despite their rehoming. Now, the East Side holds that history in the buildings left behind by the Gullah Geechee people. Lastly, the community of the East Side is what makes it such a special place. While there has been a decline in the activity since the East Side's inception, there are many active efforts to increase activity once again. For example, the Melanin Market works to bring in vendors for shopping, teaching, and empowering the youth within the community. The same team that works to create the market helps form a Juneteenth celebration as well. Lastly, to promote community, there are active attempts at bringing Black-owned businesses back into the community. Overall, this shows the value the East Side has, as well as the active efforts to continuously improve it. The population of Jacksonville is around 950,000, with about 77,000 being veterans due to the nearby military bases. Florida has the second highest percentage of homeless veterans in the United States, following California, with 400 veterans being homeless on any given night. The median income per capita of those in Jacksonville is around $37,000, with 15% of their population living in poverty, making it difficult to save for a house down payment, ultimately contributing to the homeownership rate of 57%. Additionally, Jacksonville has a large transient population, with military personnel from the nearby military bases and students from the colleges, leading to a high rental demand. Lastly, the average rent rate of properties within Jacksonville is around $1,300, with the East Side having a lower average of about $1,000 to $1,100. Now, I will let Aiden take over to answer the question of why veterans for the East Side community of Jacksonville.
Thank you. So why we chose veterans for our target market. The East Side neighborhood offers an ideal setting for veteran-focused development and has proximity to major employment centers such as those in healthcare, education, and retail. So this makes it especially appealing to veterans looking to re-enter the workforce. So although Jacksonville's unemployment rate currently sits at 3.8%, which is lower than the national average of 4.2%, barriers to employment do still exist, particularly for veterans, as many live on fixed or limited incomes through disability benefits or retirement pay, making market rents increasingly unattainable. So this development directly addresses the needs by offering affordable, stable housing with built-in support for regenerative growth. So in addition to job stability, the East Side is also home to Jacksonville's VA outpatient clinic. Here they provide residents with close access to healthcare, counseling, and case management, all critical services that support long-term growth. So we truly believe that veterans can be valuable in this community, as they'll have the opportunity to offer mentorship to the youth. So for starters, there's a program known as the Vet to Vet Peer Support Program, which is located at the Florida State College at Jacksonville. It is a national initiative that connects veterans with one-on-one for emotional support and shared recovery. It builds strong peer-based relationships that reduce isolation, one of the biggest challenges veterans face today. So through this network, veterans often emerge as visible leaders and role models that younger residents in the community can admire and learn from. So there's also something known as the Wounded Warrior Project, which has its headquarters right in Jacksonville. It provides structured mentorship, job training, and access to critical mental health services. It also helps veterans transition back into civilian life with a purpose. It empowers them to lead and mentor others, particularly for the youth at risk of falling through the cracks. So we've seen similar comparisons and results in other cities, one being one in Los Angeles known as the Veteran Peer Access Network, which placed trained veterans mentors directly into underdeserved neighborhoods. And as an outcome, there was a 20% decrease where veterans were actively engaged in youth-related crime. So there's also one in Baltimore known as the Veteran Healing Veterans Initiative, which focuses on peer mentorship as well and local conflict mediation. And for their veteran leadership contributed to a 15% decrease in youth crime as well. So connecting this to the east side, the community currently faces a crime rate that is right around 40% higher than the national average. And many of these incidents disproportionately affect youth and stem from a lack of strong mentorship, economic opportunity, and community structure. So if veterans were to live affordably in the east side, they'd be able to connect to meaningful work, support services, and each other, not just rebuilding their own lives, but also helping to reshape the neighborhood around them.
Now looking at the overall macro location of the city of Jacksonville. Evergreen Valor Residence, located by the large red pin, is immediately north of downtown Jacksonville and is surrounded on three sides by active military bases. With Naval Station Mayport, operated by the U.S. Navy, lying to the east, sort of northeast, which is the largest fleet concentration in the entire United States, being able to accommodate 34 ships at its maximum capacity. Looking at Florida as a whole, the state has 24 military locations, with Pensacola and Jacksonville housing the majority. This, along with multiple Veteran Affairs Services or VA offices, only a couple miles away from the development site, and Jacksonville University, as previously mentioned, across the river, makes Evergreen Valor Residence a perfect location for veterans trying to get back on their feet. Looking now more closely, the East Side neighborhood and downtown, there are still many opportunities for our veterans to find post-service opportunities. Along with Jacksonville University to the east and across the river, Florida State College at Jacksonville is only a 15-minute bus ride away to the west. For our veterans who wish to pursue a more full-time opportunity, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is less than 1 mile away from home. Along with more part-time opportunities at ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, a multi-event space and sports venue for minor league basketball and hockey teams. Due east of that there is ViStar Ballpark, which hosts Jacksonville's minor league baseball team. And of course, not to forget Everbank Stadium, who hosts the Jacksonville Jaguars, their NFL team.
And that brings us to the heart of what Evergreen is all about. As we take a closer look to the development itself, I want you to picture not just a building, but a foundation for rebuilding lives. Evergreen is a 4-story apartment community right here in Jacksonville's downtown east side, thoughtfully designed with 24 units for those who've served our country. These aren't just units. These are places where people can finally breathe, reset, and reclaim their independence. We're building 9 one-bedroom apartments at 650 square feet, 4 two-bedroom apartments at 825 square feet, and 11 three-bedroom apartments at 950 square feet. Every layout is designed with comfort, dignity, and livability in mind. Because veterans deserve more than just a roof over their heads. They deserve a place that feels like home. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about what happens beyond the front door. At Evergreen, we're building more than housing. We're creating a support system woven into everyday life. There's an on-site resource center offering job training, resume help, and access to veteran assistance support. So that stability doesn't end with housing, but it begins there. Outside, you'll find wellness and therapy gardens intentionally designed to be peaceful spaces where residents can unwind, reflect, or simply enjoy a moment of calm, maybe alongside a neighbor or even in quiet solitude. Our community rooms are about connection. Veterans will have a space to gather for birthdays, for movie nights, meals, or just simple check-ins. The kind of informal support that makes a big difference when rebuilding trust and relationships. And with 24 dedicated parking spaces, we're making sure that access is not a barrier. Whether it's family dropping by, a rideshare to a job interview, or simply coming home at night. Evergreen is rooted in Jacksonville's downtown east side for a reason. This community already has the heart, it has the history and the spirit. All we're doing is helping build upon that with care, with intention, and with our veterans at the center. This development is about restoring dignity, revitalizing the neighborhood, and reaffirming our belief that everyone deserves a second chance, especially those who gave so much for our country. Thank you for letting me share this vision, and I would like to pass it on to Ricky to dive into our financial budget.
Thank you, Deontay. Here's an overview of our development budget, which totals 16.38 million. The largest use of the funds is construction at 8.92 million, which makes up just over half of our total costs. We've allocated $720,000 for soft costs such as design, legal, and consulting, as well as just over 5.17 million goes towards financing costs, including loan interest fees and closing costs. We also included $160,000 in reserves, including 74,000 in debt reserves and 85,000 in operating reserves to protect against future uncertainties such as unexpected increases in operating costs or tariffs on imported goods. Finally, our development budget includes a $2.1 million in development fees, of which 976 is deferred for gap financing and can also help against uncertainties. Our total development cost is $16.38 million, and we've assembled a capital stack that blends public and private financing to support construction and long-term affordability. During construction, we're using a $6 million loan from Seacoast Bank, which is partially refinanced at stabilization by a $2 million permanent loan through Fannie Mae's small loan program. We've also secured 4% low-income housing tax credits, generating $5 million in equity and $3.2 million soft loan from Florida Sale Program, which is deferred and repayable only from surplus cash flow. To fully close the gap, we're also deferring $976 of the developer fee. All sources combined support our development costs. Next slide.
We would like to say thank you for listening to us today, and we would love to invite any questions that you may have.
I have a question. Thank you so much. First of all, this was a wonderful presentation and really obviously a lot of thought and great analysis put into this. One question that I have is you had a number of 3-bedroom units for veterans, and I noticed that those units are 950 square feet. And I just wondered if you had procured a market study that validated that sort of that smaller 3-bedroom size unit would be marketable in that community.
Yeah, so we kind of just figured out that it would benefit the veterans more just actually to have more veterans in the room or in the unit itself, and then to kind of keep that living community there. So, like a lot of veterans feel alone or lonely at times, so this would be a great way to kind of have them connect with each other. And then, yeah.
Great. And so they would all, so you're imagining that it would be individual veterans income qualifying for the tax credit to live there in a 3-bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you guys have 94 cents in your pricing, which is super optimistic, and I love that. Did you validate that at all by talking to any equity providers, or how did you arrive at that number?
That should be in our appendix. Was when we calculated the overall LIHTC on just the general assumptions of the case. We were just told with the price to credit ratio was 94 cents. So
we gave that to you. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's how we came up with that.
Okay, great. And then one last question. For the veterans, with LIHTC, there are fair housing issues. So you can have the veterans preference, but you can't, there's the sort of the fair housing concerns. And so I was just wondering, are you imagining using vouchers to attract veterans? Are you leveraging the veterans preference? How are you, or what thought was gone into other than just sort of designing this with a framework for veterans? let me rephrase that. Is it, sorry, I'm wordy. It was this, were you planning on leveraging financing tools that specifically were meant for veterans, or were you just thinking about veterans as you filtered your design decisions and your location and sort of real estate decisions?
You can lead us off first. We were mostly just looking at the municipal bonds that were provided by the city of Jacksonville or the state of Florida. So that's primarily what the sale loan is. It's just a ground up development that's super low interest that is specifically for low income projects and just affordable housing. So we just targeted with that rather than just a more specific, if we want to call it a veterans loan.
Uh-huh.
Just to stay more optimistic and just really broaden our options with the gap financing.
Great. And so then the veterans are your target population, but that's not dictated by any of your financing. That's sort of the goal you guys set as a team. Awesome. Well done. Well done, y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi. Let's see. So I agree. It was a very well presented project, and clearly you did a lot of research, and I think that's very commendable. And I learned some things about Jacksonville and the East Side that I didn't know, so I'm happy to be here and learning from you all. It's funny, I had one of the same questions as Stacy. I wondered how you came up with your unit mix, your one bet number of ones, twos, and threes.
Yeah, we came up with this mix simply just because we know like veterans or people in affordable housing have different preferences, right? Some people love to live alone, some people love to live with a friend or kind of want that community. So we kind of just thought like, all right, like let's do the not one bedroom so people that would rather live alone, they could have that opportunity. And then if someone just wants another person to live aside by, they can have that opportunity. And then if someone wants, a little bit more company, they also have that opportunity. So really, it was just to be a little bit flexible and give a variety of different options that could suit our veterans' needs.
Okay, great. Also, you've presented the veterans and their very positive impact on communities. But there are a lot of veterans that have some significant challenges, especially emotional and mental challenges and physical. And I'm just wondering how you're thinking of providing services to them and ensuring that the property is managed well and that veterans get the support they need, but also that it is a positive impact on the community and not a negative impact, because it is challenging. I've seen over the years to manage this type of development, and it's nice because it's small. I think that's a positive that you didn't build a 60 unit a project with veterans, but just wondered about your thoughts on that side of the programming.
Yeah, I guess I could say like we have veteran assistance programs and other things for them to kind of rebuild themselves and revamp themselves. So not more of like just a veteran without much support. We will be the support system for them. So when they, have the challenges, whether it's physical, mental, things like that, we can kind of really bring them along and develop them into continuing to be a productive member of society with the programs that we set out. Like some of the programs that Aiden had mentioned in his presentation. And then we also talked about, our community impact where, the neighborhood itself is kind of revamping and reshaping back to what it wanted to be. So we're in the same way the veterans are almost doing the same thing, where they're kind of rebuilding themselves and turning themselves more into a positive light. And they can also help with the community with that.
Great, great. Yeah. And I did see that there were a lot of great support, but I know it can be a challenging population to manage long term. And then, the tax credit program is tricky. You've got a very small project. You're not asking for a lot of credits. It's uber competitive. Any thoughts about and I'm not sure what the parameters were for your program, so forgive me if that was just a given, but that if you weren't able to obtain tax credits, if there were other sources that you might consider to make this project happen.
I think it was primarily just looking at, again, like kind of what we covered earlier with just the uh, their government bonds that would be available. So in this case, if we were had like our tenants already locked in and we already began construction, we would look more at a veteran specific government loan, just because we know then those are available since we have our tenants locked in. But if you're asking and want to focus more on the pre-development, if we have no lease contract signed or no construction started yet, we would still focus with that uh, government and muni bonds that would be available, similar to the sale loan that's super low interest rate and just provides really fundamental help with the ground up construction costs. We would just look for a comparable loan.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I had one, sorry, Michael.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Just one more question. Yeah, I saw in the model that there was no acquisition price, and so I wanted to know what's behind that assumption. Sorry, Michael.
Was it this one you're talking about?
You're assuming no acquisition cost in the pro forma that you guys submitted, and then as shown here. So I'm just curious, is the land being donated?
The city of Jacksonville has decided to donate the land. So we just have a $1 ground lease per annum to just essentially operate it.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Great job. Really impressed with the work that you all put into this. I know we've just got a minute or so left, but you all spoke a little bit about this, kind of the benefit to the community and also how it fits into existing community planning. But can you speak a little bit more other than kind of the veteran mentor program and the affordable housing of how this fits into existing community plans and benefits to the community?
Yeah, so particularly like the Florida State program, it works directly with college students, impacting the veterans, I guess. It's just one-on-one based work. And what else was your question about? Sorry,
I think maybe how it fits into existing plans for the East Side neighborhood.
Okay, let's see here. Well, I guess just the impact in the crime relation, pretty much. I mean, showing the previous stats, I guess, like the East Side struggles with crime, and it's known that in other cities this has worked before. So I guess just drawing from those examples, concluding that there'd be a positive role model for sure.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation. We are so excited to showcase Felder Lofts, a 100% affordable housing development named after Pat Lockett Felder, the past president of Jacksonville's Homebound Advisory Board and a lifelong activist in the city's community. The property at 1109 Evergreen Avenue offers 24 units for individuals and families earning 30% and 60% AMI to meet Jacksonville's growing affordable housing demand. The project totals 24,000 square feet, contains 24 parking spaces, and leverages $5.29 million in 4% LIHTC funding. Starting by introducing ourselves, my name is Katherine Wagner, and I am here with my colleagues Tejas Gatehouse, Braden Shaw, Jake Goldstein, and Noam Peixoto. Here's our presentation agenda, and I will now pass it over to Braden to talk about our market overview.
Starting off with a market overview, it is important to look into Jacksonville, Florida, especially Eastside Jacksonville, where Felder Lofts will be located. To cover the population statistics, Jacksonville is the most populous city in Florida, with just over 1 million people and an average household of 2.8 people and a steady annual growth rate of 1.3%. For population demographics, there's a strong African American presence, and in the East Side, specifically, almost half of households are female-headed. Moving on to economic factors, the median family income in Eastside Jacksonville is significantly less than the Jacksonville metro area at $29,000 compared to $94,000. and 60% of East Side households are reported to be extremely low income. Highlighting employment factors, there are over 150 companies headquartered in Jacksonville with a low unemployment rate of 3.8%. However, Eastside Jacksonville has roughly double at 9%. The need for affordable housing in Florida as a whole is very prominent, as 57% of renters are cost burden, which is higher than the national average. This is due to there being only 26 affordable and available homes per 100 extremely low income households, in which 82% are severely cost burden, which equates to almost 900,000 households in Florida alone. This cost burden is driven by the average renter wage being insufficient to adequately afford market rate units. More specifically, there is an extremely urgent need for affordable housing in Jacksonville, as Jacksonville Housing Authority has a 5-year wait list with over 27,000 people on it and an estimated shortage of 40,000 units alone in Eastside Jacksonville. In Jacksonville alone, 50% of renters are spending more than half of their income on housing, which demonstrates the need for more affordable supply. Just earlier this month, on April 8th, residents of Jacksonville had a meeting with the mayor, Donna Deegan, to discuss ways to mitigate this crisis, including the creation of a $10 million affordable housing trust. As you can see, there is a strong need for affordable housing in Jacksonville, but there is a diverse group of people that need affordable housing. Our target demographic for Felder Lofts is single parent run families due to there being 410 single parent households in the East Side alone. The median age of 37 years and 35% of East Side residents being under 18 shows a strong family orientation. And these families need affordable housing, as 43% of children in East Side live below the federal poverty line.
And based off our target demographics, we've highlighted a few important services that the average resident of our community may want to visit. Some points I wanted to mention is the proximity to the local hospital, schooling, grocery stores, and football stadium, which are all accessible by public transportation. And a more local map, since our target demographic is single parent households, they may need to have someone take care of their child while they go to work. Luckily, our development is right across the street from Kids Hope Alliance, which provides free after-school activities and academic enrichment, all while being close to many bus stops.
Here are the 3 comparable properties that aided in the process of deciding Felder Loft's unit and AMI mix. The most important information to highlight is that the 2 closest comparable properties to our property, CB Daily Villas and Brentwood Lake Apartments, have low vacancy rates of 2.7% and 0%. We expect our development to align with these low vacancy rates, as there is an extremely strong demand for affordable housing, specifically in the Eastside Jacksonville area.
Now moving on to our development plan. Felder Lofts doesn't only include modern architectural aesthetics, but also includes 24 value engineered units with community spaces and amenities, all while setting a new standard for affordable housing in the Jacksonville community. And here are our 1, 2, and 3 bedroom floor plans with all affordable rates. And when you become a part of our community, you're not just securing a high quality apartment, you're gaining access to a range of thoughtfully designed amenities that promote connection, support, and well-being. Our on-site community impact coordinator partners with local foundations to organize community potlucks, educational workshops, and tutoring programs. And for those single parents seeking balance and self-care, the property also features a fully equipped gym, a peaceful community garden, a comfortable resident lounge, and an inviting outdoor patio, all designed to foster a strong sense of belonging, support, and community.
Our Community Impact Coordinator is a liaison between our tenants and supportive services in the Jacksonville area. Through our research, these are some organizations that we could partner with to improve the quality of life for our tenants. Career Source Florida offers tailored career counseling, helping our tenants effectively navigate the job market. Hope and Healing Jacks gives full service support for single mothers, ranging from assistance in continued education to provided childcare. Feeding Northeast Florida offers programs to battle child hunger along with nutrition classes to improve resident quality of life. Mental Health Resource Center supplies both mental health and substance abuse therapy for residents in need, in addition to other family services.
We recognize that single-family homes currently dominate the Eastside Jacksonville market. However, this presents a unique opportunity to introduce a new standard for affordable housing through our multifamily complex. Multifamily housing allows for more units, lower rent, and reduced maintenance costs. Specifically, our development stands out by offering a wide range of resident-focused amenities, practical feasibility, professional property management that eases the burdens of home ownership, and a strong sense of community. Together, these features position our complex as a superior alternative to existing multifamily options in the area. To highlight the history of Jacksonville, we included a mural celebrating prominent African American artists, athletes, and activists who call the city home. Also, Jacksonville is part of the federally designated Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, and this culture is deeply woven into the city's identity, reflected in its language, music, food, and faith traditions. It was essential that our development honor their legacy, and as such, we've included a semi-annual community potluck with cuisine inspired by the Gullah Geechee and a lobby filled with educational photos about their culture. Finally, naming the building Felder Lofts pays tribute to Pal Felder and her lifelong commitment as an activist to the Jacksonville community. These elements ensure that our space is not only inclusive, but also rooted in the local story.
Moving into the construction timeline, we begin by breaking ground in year 0. That begins our 2.5-year construction period. Then we enter the 8-month absorption period. Following that, we enter our stabilization, which occurs in year 4 of the property's lifetime and year 2 of the property's operations. That is where we use that year to calculate our operating metrics. Then we hold the property through year 15 of operations, where the compliance period ends for the LIHTC funding, and then we are allowed to reapply. Moving on to the financials for the case, and beginning with a financial preface, the operating cash flow for the property in all 15 years of our hold period is negative. That is because of the 30% AMI mix that we decided to use. It is justified financially because it gives us access to additional grants and soft debt, and justified socially because it significantly better serves the Jacksonville community and its overarching goals. It is solved by including an operating loss reserve of around $500,000, which is the sum of the losses on an operating basis that we experienced throughout the 15-year hold period. We would be happy to discuss during the question section why we chose this over a separate development or development plan, which may include a positive operating cash flow. Additionally, of course, with our negative net operating income, we cannot service that 1.15x debt service coverage ratio, so we do not have a permanent loan on the property. Additionally, as seen in our Excel model, our sources do not match our uses. That is because there is a source surplus for this affordable housing development. Essentially, what that means is we would only truly secure our sources up to our total uses, but we now have a buffer in the event that we cannot secure all of our soft debt financing. Moving on to the development budget, here you can see where we allocated all of our financing, including that $500,000 operating loss reserve, to create that total development cost of $11.6 million.
Here are our capital sources. They include mainly low-income housing tax credit allocations, tax-exempt bonds, and government grants. And here are our capital uses, displaying the source surplus mentioned previously.
Exploring our soft debt, through researching various affordable housing funding sources, we have selected 4 programs that comprise of $3.75 million, including Federal Home Loan Bank's Affordable Housing Program, which is a competitive grant with $1.25 million funding for each project. Next is the National Housing Trust Fund, which is a federally designed program specifically for units 30% of AMI or less, with a max allocation of $1 million per project. Next is Home Investment Partnerships, which is a federal block grant that allows us to receive $500,000 for our development. And lastly is Florida's own State Housing Initiative Partners, that is a forgivable loan for up to $1 million per project.
Moving into the pro forma for the project, here you can see the key line items in critical years of the property's operations. Year 1, our absorption period, of course, has the lowest operating cash flow, as that is where we experience the highest vacancy during our lease-up period. Then in year 2, we experience our stabilization. And in year 15, that's the last year of our hold period. One thing I want to note here is that the operating cash flow in year 15 is less than that of year 2. That is because of the fact that in the name of being conservative, we included a rental growth rate of 2% as opposed to our expense growth rate, which is 3%. Moving on to the risks of the property, our team identified natural disasters, the construction timeline, NIMBYism, and soft debt financing as the 4 key risks associated with our property. With respect to natural disasters, we've included a storm-resistant garden on top of the roof, which should help with mitigating storms and hurricanes. For construction timeline, in our financial model, we've included a significant construction reserve as well as permits and other consultants, which should help in making the process of construction seamless, especially with the city. Regarding NIMBYism, by keeping aesthetics in mind for the property, as opposed to driving people away from our development, we actually seek to bring livelihood to the area and also set a new standard for affordable housing and what it should look like going forward in Jacksonville. For our soft debt financing, as mentioned before, we have that large buffer which aids in, financing our property if we're not able to secure all of the soft debt. Additionally, and this is a key reason why we chose those 30% AMI units, they make us significantly more likely to gain not only grants which are solely for homelessness units, but also to gain more access to grants for the 60% AMI units as well.
Kicking off our final recommendation, we recognize it is hard to visualize a development just by highlighting metrics off of a slideshow. So we created a video rendering to fully immerse you in a world with Felder lofts.
To conclude, we recommend moving forward with the Felder Lofts development, an affordable, community-centered multifamily project tailored to meet the affordable housing needs of Eastside Jacksonville. This 24-unit building will serve low-income families earning 30 to 60% of AMI. For a last financial overview, Felder Lofts leverages a 4% LIHTC funding fee of $5.29 million, a $1.41 million development fee, and total development costs of $11.5 million. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation, and we hope you're as excited about Felder Lofts as we are. We are now happy to answer any questions you may have about our development.
Hi, I'll jump in. Wow, beautiful graphics, very well done presentation, a lot of information. I didn't even get it all, but we'll get through it. But clearly you put a lot of time in researching and understanding the market and the needs in this neighborhood. I appreciate that you talked about the architecture and sort of the site and art. You did a really comprehensive job on this effort. So I would start with, and I'm sure others on the panel are thinking the same thing about, and you said you talk a little bit further about why you chose to go into a negative cash flow, to have this excess funding should you need it. I don't think it's very common, if ever, that funders are willing to fund into a project that's oversourced. That would be a very unusual situation. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll begin with the oversourcing. We would only secure funding up to the total uses of our property. So it definitely wouldn't be oversourced. That was just something that we wanted to include to show all of our potential sources in the model. And then what would be representative of our used sources is up to our total usages. To continue on the negative operating cash flow, we have included in our appendix here. This looks like the previous slide, which covers the negative operating cash flow pro forma. But here we made another model, which unfortunately we couldn't send out, but I include all of the metrics here, that does have positive operating cash flow. And at first glance, of course, this development seems a lot more feasible. However, looking at all of the assumptions that we had to make in order to make this property have positive operating cash flow, you'll begin to understand why we decided to go with the negative operating cash flow option. Firstly, this includes no 30% AMI units. That makes us ineligible for the NHTF funding and also makes us significantly less likely to receive funding from the other grant sources, which are for 60% AMI units. Also, that unit mix that we had to use in order to drive up our rent total is mainly 2 bedrooms and a lot of 3 bedrooms as well, which, given our research into the single parenthood in the area, just does not seem feasible. And I think that our vacancy, or the team thinks that our vacancy would have a significant increase in that instance, as well as we would have to have zero resident services fee on an operating basis, which would mean that great community impact coordinator, which provides employment and other services, would not be able to be funded. Additionally, the unit sizes themselves have to be smaller. There's no common space for a gym and other mental health spaces. We have to pay a fee to generate a permanent loan. And the underwritten vacancy for the case had to be changed from 10% to 2% after stabilization, which in our opinion is just not conservative enough, especially for a model for an affordable housing development in the area.
So let me ask this as a follow-up, because that was sort of my line of thinking too, Whitney. How would you pitch to an investor? So here, in this assumption, you're going to be able to secure these loans, but how do you pitch to an investor that they should buy the tax credits to invest in a project that is not cash flowing year over year over year? So the investor is going to, there's no returns because there's no cash flow. So how do you convince them that this is a good deal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that. The main reason why we wanted to do this, number one, it has the operating loss reserve. So the cash flow is obviously zero. It can't be actually negative, but it would be zero because we cover it with the operating loss reserve. In terms of why they would seek out this development, it's because of the fact that in the first place, we're significantly more likely to get access to not only existing grants, but additional ones. And also, at the end of the 15-year hold period, the option is to convert it into market rate units or reapply for additional funding. In our opinion, these 30% AMI units and the overall goal with the overall existing and continuing goal of the Jacksonville community, being able to get access to additional grants and essentially refinance through LIHTC funding is unmatched with these 30% AMI units that end up dragging down the net operating income of the property. However, we think that, especially given these unrealistic assumptions that have to be made in this case in order to get that NOI positive, frankly, it does not make sense to have a positive free cash flow property for this in this exact instance.
Okay, thank you.
I think, well, the first thing I want to say is definitely a very well done presentation. The graphics were, professional quality. So commend you on all of that. And I hate to stay on this topic, but so in year 15, then what would happen to the 30% units? Are you saying that converting to market rate? Is that?
So, yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. So there are two options. One of them is to convert them into market rate. That seems very unrealistic. A value add developer would have to come in, and the area, as our market research demonstrates, is really suited for an affordable housing development if you're going to do multifamily and not single family homes. So instead of that, at the end of the LIHTC compliance period, what the developer must do is reapply for LIHTC funding. And that would be possible because we have these 30% AMI units and we have a development that's more suited to the overall Jacksonville goals. And sorry to backtrack here a little bit, but in terms of how to pitch this, to an investor, we have all of the equity supplied by grants and things of that nature. But if you were going to pitch it to, a separate developer and serving as a consultant for a developer, you would essentially use the developer fee, which comes out of the property all at the beginning instead of being delayed, which it has to be in other developments that can't get all of these grants. So to pitch it to a developer is very easy. And then for the tax credits, essentially the property functions because of the operating loss reserve and is going to be the most competitive property in terms of securing these grants.
Did the deal not pencil if you just reduced your permanent financing by the surplus and the loss reserve that you had set up?
Yeah, so if you create reasonable assumptions, and most of them were given in the case, the net operating income is negative for the property. This slide that we're on right now are the assumptions that you have to alter from the case in order to get positive net operating income. In our opinion, this is just not realistic. Three-bedroom units in the area aren't reasonable, and having significantly smaller unit sizes just isn't something that we're interested in for our community. Additionally, that vacancy, in our comparable properties, that was driving why we used the 10% vacancy here. We did see a property, it was relatively far from our property, but and was built, some 40 years ago, but it did have a 10% vacancy. So to underwrite a 2% vacancy feels a little bit aggressive for us. And that's essentially why we decided to go with this negative operating cash flow property.
Talk maybe, I know we only have a minute or two left, a little bit about how your unit designs and your building design are appropriate, maybe is the right word, for single head of household with children, like how you approach design. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. Beginning with the site itself, it is right next to services for children, and that was mentioned back in our map, which I won't swap to now in the interest of time. But there are services for not only the education of, but also just general watch over of children after school in the area. And then in terms of the site itself, we include the unit mix is really where we included that with an emphasis on two-bedroom units for that single parent and children, as opposed to maybe three-bedroom units, which would be more common in larger families, or one-bedroom units not appealing to families at all.
Great.
Hey, hello, good morning, everybody. We're Regatta Development Group, and today we're excited to present our proposal for Midway Commons, a transformational mixed-use affordable housing development located in the East Side neighborhood of Jacksonville, Florida. Before we begin our presentation, I would like to introduce our hardworking team members. I'm Fernando Schwartz. I'm paired up with John Minch, Patrick Staff, Paul Leonelli, and Grayson Harkness. Our presentation will cover 6 key areas: background, overview of the market and our project, sustainability, financials, comparable properties, and community impact. I invite you to dive in with us. At Regatta Development Group, our mission is simple yet powerful: to transform Jacksonville's historic East Side through thoughtful, community-rooted development. We believe in creating affordable, resilient housing that honors the neighborhood's cultural legacy, empowers its residents, and promotes long-term equity. Midway Commons is much more than just a building. It's a catalyst for inclusive growth through sustainability, education, and creativity. A little bit of context about Jacksonville. Jacksonville is one of the fastest growing cities in the US, but growth hasn't been equal for all. The historic East Side is rich in culture and history, yet its median household income lags behind the citywide average, ranging from $38,000 to $54,000, depending on each household size. There's also a significant shortage of affordable housing, estimated at 40,000 units. Despite challenges like aging infrastructure and safety perceptions, this creates a prime opportunity for Regatta to be a first mover in the area and drive meaningful change for all its residents. Midway Commons will feature 24 multifamily units across 4 stories with a 1-to-1 parking ratio. Our development would also include amenities such as a 2,000 square foot ground floor community room, on-site laundry, and outer space. In addition, our building will be designed to passive house standards, ensuring energy efficiency, low utility costs, and long-term sustainability. We will also be partnering with the historic East Side Cultural Center to foster a deep sense of community. Although it's important to acknowledge challenges such as infrastructure, market fluctuations, and lack of comparables that exist in the area, we believe that Midway Commons will be a trailblazer in the Jacksonville market. Overall, the Jacksonville public transportation system is flawed by limited offerings, low riderships, and car dependency. However, the location of Midway Commons is well served by the Jacksonville Transportation Authority. The Coast Flyer Red Line has 4 stops within 1,000 feet of our site. Plus, it will offer connections to a green line. Additionally, the Jacksonville Skyway system is just a 4-minute drive away, providing direct access to the Rosa Parks Transit Station. This will not only ensure, but will make residents have strong transit access to jobs, services, and amenities across the city. Now we'll hand it over to Grayson, who will talk a little bit more about the details of our building.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to invite you to our job site. Midway Commons is designed with a strong emphasis on durability and resilience. The first rendering you see on the left highlights a stucco finish, Florida's most common building material, due to its aesthetic appeal and reliable weather resistance. However, it can sometimes be more expensive and susceptible to cracking in Florida's variable climate. The second rendering you see on the right is an alternative combination of concrete blocks and wood framing, which is also resistant to hurricanes and heavy rainfall. This approach typically offers a more cost-effective solution because of lower material and labor expenses. However, current tariffs may disproportionately affect the cost of wood framing since concrete and stucco are predominantly produced domestically. Both stucco and a combination of concrete blocks with wood framing are excellent options, each with the distinct advantages, and our choice will ultimately align with balancing cost effectiveness, durability, and sustainability for our unique environment. Looking at our unit design here, we feature thoughtfully designed units crafted to serve our community needs. We have prioritized larger than average 1-bedroom apartments at around 546 square feet, catering to our senior residents, which represent about 25% of our target demographic. And our 960 square foot 2-bedroom units and spacious 1,300 square foot 3-bedroom units are designed to comfortably accommodate families, since about 28% of the community comprises families with children. So each unit will maximize space and functionality to enhance our comfort and livability for our residents. Now to look into our per unit rental income, we took the approach of structuring our rental pricing to align closely with HUD's maximum allowable rents, which reflects the broader Jacksonville metro area instead of the lower neighborhood averages. And this strategy will enable us to maintain financial sustainability while providing quality, affordable housing. And half our units are designated as 1-bedroom units to align with local demographics, particularly the residents aged 55 and up. And the remaining units will effectively serve the needs of families to ensure our broad community impact. So now looking at our development costs, Midway Commons benefits greatly from a 99-year ground lease with the city of Jacksonville at just $1 per year. And this arrangement significantly reduced our upfront costs. Our project's hard construction budget totals around 10.08 million and an additional 947,000, which covers essential soft costs and contingencies, which we had at 4% of our hard costs. And by managing these costs effectively, we ensure that our project remains economically viable and positioned to sustainably serve our historic East Side community for generations.
So yeah, moving on to sustainability initiatives. We originally built for $325 per square foot, but we then increased that amount by 20% to $400 to add various environmental protections. We decided to construct our development entirely in accordance with passive house standards. According to the Passive House Institute in the US, we could expect a 3 to 5% increase in total costs to build to passive standards. So we just gave ourselves a 7% increase in cost to be conservative. We then decided to add a green roof to reduce the effect of urban heat in Jacksonville. According to various Jacksonville general contractors, we estimated the cost of this to be around $30 per square foot, making the total cost around $180,000. Additionally, we decided to raise the building by 3 to 5 feet to mitigate flood risks. I'll talk more about that later. And then we added a shaded parking lot with solar panels that we estimated to be at $72,000. So yeah, one of our major points of pride on this development is our raised building concept, as mentioned before. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration projects a relative sea level rise of approximately 10 to 12 inches along the U.S. East Coast, which puts our riverside site at risk. The FEMA Flood Map Service Center also shows that our site is in an area prone to flooding already. So we decided to raise our building by 3 to 5 feet to mitigate flood risk and keep our tenants safe in the case of a flood or hurricane. Our decision was modeled after Vista Breeze, a senior housing development in Miami Beach, Florida. Their site sat directly on a canal, and they were forced to raise their building to mitigate flood damages. This decision to raise our building really just reflects our commitment to environmental resilience and shows our awareness of Florida's climate challenges.
Now turning to our credit allocation. So our initial LIHTC basis stands at about 12.7 million. Because our development is in a difficult to develop area, the project will receive a 130% basis boost, which will increase our eligible basis to about 16.5 million. Since all of our units are affordable, our applicable fraction is 100%. And then we're using 4% credits on this project. So we'll receive about $660,000 per year in credits over the span of 10 years. At a competitive price and a hot market of 94 cents on the dollar, our LIHTC equity will be about 6.2 million. And then for financing, as Grayson mentioned earlier, this land deal that we have with Jacksonville will allow us to not need as much financing as we would have needed if we had to pay for land. So our LIHTC, as I mentioned, at 6.2 million, and then our tax-exempt bonds, which pass the 50% test, sit at about 6.5 million. And then we have two main forms of soft debt: the sale program at $100,000 and the Jacksonville Affordable Housing Fund at $100,000. And then finally, our deferred developer fee, which stands at about $50,000. And then lastly, our perm loan amount is about 1.65 million, and this will span over 30 years at a 6.3% interest rate. Now turning to our operating cash flow, as you can see, our balance will be negative in the first year. This reflects the fact that it'll take 8 months for us to lease up to stabilization, which in this case is 90% occupancy, which is quite a conservative estimate, but it will allow us to make sure that we're not overstating our balance. Our DSCR is also negative in the first year, but once we're having that stable income, we'll have a 1.15 stable DSCR in the second year, and this will be increasing as the years go on. Now turning to comparable properties, we found two main comparable properties. The first one's in Hillsboro, Oregon. It was built 10 years ago in 2015. It's a little bit larger at 57 units, but it is passive house. It's a LIHTC development and it's 100% occupied, showing that there is demand for LIHTC units that are passive and that are able to cater to the community that they serve. Our other property is Village at Hyde Park, which is in our city of Jacksonville, Florida. This is a more modern development. It was built in 2019. It's also a LIHTC development. It is also quite a bit larger at 80 units. But once again, it's 100% occupied, showing that there is a lot of demand in the area for affordable housing that is quality and provides the resources and amenities to the community.
Thank you, John. And now to transition into the economic and community impact of our project, which we're really most proud about. Midway Commons isn't just about building housing for us, it's about strengthening a community that we care about. And not only are we delivering 100% affordable units in a city that's short over 40,000 homes, but we're trying to do it in a way that's culturally centered. And that's why we designed Midway Commons with community partnerships really at the core. And these include our partnerships with Lift Jacks and the historic East Side Cultural Center. So to touch on our partnership with Lift Jacks, it's really a cornerstone of our community enhancement strategy. And we're proud to be providing the new home for what is currently the John Love Early Learning Center, which is Jacksonville's flagship pre-K dedicated to 3- and 4-year-olds. And just to understand the mission of John Love, it goes beyond academics. And in 2022, 90% of children at John Love graduated kindergarten ready. And to us, that's a metric that shows that this program is closing opportunity gaps that have historically defined underserved communities like the East Side. Here's just a slide to get a sense of how the program will run. It's a full day schedule that supports students from breakfast to lunch, and we're really centered on creating a stable and holistic child program. And something that we're really excited about to incorporate is a new partnership that we've established with Jacksonville University's Community Education Program to staff the center with motivated, service-oriented undergrads. And these students aren't just volunteers, they're also trained through a service learning curriculum that's focused on nonprofit collaboration and having a real world impact. And for the students, not only do they get real world experience in the community, also the community receives high quality care and mentorship, which is really crucial to us. And now for our second community partnership. Culture and storytelling are really central to how we thought about building trust with the community. And that's why we decided to partner with the Historic Eastside Cultural Center. And our goal here is to commission a public mural that will be reflective and a permanent part of Midway Commons. And this mural is aimed at celebrating the neighborhood's African American heritage. And we really want to empower local artists here with creativity. And in terms of envisioning what this mural will look like, of course, we're open to community feedback, but what we're thinking about now is creating a mural that shows three generations of the East Side, a child, a parent, and a grandparent. And we're going to have them each holding a key representing equal access to opportunity. And to us, this equal access to opportunity really embodies the mission of Lift Jacks. And they'll be standing on the steps of Mother Midway AME Church, which is a spiritual anchor of the community, as it was the first religious center established by the freedmen after slavery ended in the South. And it's also the inspiration of our development name. And we hope to depict the sun in the background, trying to resemble a brighter future for all in the community. And just to close, thinking about the question of why Regatta. For us, we're not just developers, we're people who are trying to build communities. And we're hoping to be first movers in the East Side neighborhood to set the standard for development. We hope to elevate lives through not just quality design and investing in education and arts, but also building for long-term resilience. And by blending these aspects of sustainability, affordability, and also cultural preservation, we hope not just to fit into the neighborhood, to also shape its future. So thank you guys so much, and we'd love to hear any questions.
Well, that was awesome, y'all. Thank you so much. I only have one question. You mentioned that the rents that you're modeling here are max LIHTC rents and that the immediate area is actually lower. And so I just wanted you to sort of voice over the value proposition or sort of what this Midway project is going to offer residents that will compel people to pay more to live on the East Side in an affordable development.
Sure, yeah, I can talk on that. So the development, even though it's in a community where the fair market rents are a lot lower than the Jacksonville metro area, a lot of the existing multifamily developments are a lot older and they don't have many amenities, if any at all. So we decided to use the Jacksonville metro because our development's going to be brand new, and we're hoping that that brand new development with things like the community center, on-site laundry, parking, those sorts of things that will command higher rents. That was our thinking for it. Yeah, we did recognize that the fair market rates in our zip code in the East Side community do stand well below the average, but we're confident that this neighborhood, as it continues to improve and us being able to provide all these great services, it will really demand higher rents and people will be willing to step in and pay.
Great, thank you. And I just want to I loved how you described the mural and y'all put thought into what the mural would look like. That just totally tugged at my heartstrings. So thank you.
Talk a little bit more about the architecture. I think the sustainability program, I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds like, you've done a lot of great research and you really gave a lot of thought to the site and the floodplain and how you would, approach the sort of the physical development of the site. But tell us more about, talk a little bit about the actual architecture and whether you feel like it's contextual within the neighborhood.
So
why you chose this design. Yeah,
I'll talk a little bit about the architecture. Maybe Pat can talk a little bit about why we chose to raise the building. But basically, when I was kind of looking through the neighborhood as a whole, a lot of shotgun houses, a lot of brick, and we wanted to kind of just bring in something that wouldn't stand out too much. I don't think this design would be overall like in a flare too much to not stick in. And we kind of looked at it as a point of, I looked at, stucco is the most commonly used within Florida. And I was like, okay, acknowledging that, it's great for weather, but it is one of the most expensive ways to build. So I was looking at other options like concrete blocks and the wood framing. And then once I kind of went down that loop, I was like, well, with the tariffs, I feel like the wood framing is mostly gotten from Canada. So we were like, what, let's have both models in here, the stucco and the concrete with the wood framing, just as an alternative to, balance our options and then, looking forward, ultimately decide what we want to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then a little kind of on the sustainability part. So we really acknowledge that our site was in Florida and that Florida is very susceptible to climate change and kind of the damages that go with that. So for us, building a site that wasn't really conscious of environmental protections wasn't going to be useful if if the first floor gets flooded every 7 years. So our decision to raise the building was something that we noticed in a few kind of developments that we observed that were kind of around these kind of flooding coastal areas. And then all of our, or I guess a lot of our kind of projections on how much these would cost were from a company called Brand Engineering and Architecture. They're a environmental construction consultant agency in New York, and they had a great amount of like kind of estimates and examples of how various sites kind of in these flood zones were able to develop. So that was really kind of our main research point when deciding to do this.
Yeah, it was a unique approach. Yeah.
I want to say, great job. I really appreciate how practical I feel like this proposal is and how you incorporated the neighborhood into your planning. It really seems like, you were thoughtful about that. I did have a question about the early learning center. So you said that that would be part of this development. Is that going to be located as part of like your amenity space, or how is that incorporated into the development?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we've allocated aside 2,000 square feet of community space. And when we were trying to figure out what the best use of this program would be, we looked around at the neighborhood. Initially, we thought about just making this recreational space. But then as we began to research more about the area, we realized that there is a significant push right now by specifically an organization called Lift Jacks to make the area more competitively in the education space. So right now, there's the Early Learning Center, which is located in an older public school building in the neighborhood. So we thought this would be a perfect opportunity to create a new space for that. And it's really at the cutting edge of innovation for education as the neighborhood becomes more developed. So we thought by creating this new space, it would just build on the momentum of what the community is trying to do with education. And also the fact that our neighborhood is so close to other schools, we thought it would position us well for families who maybe have an older child who needs to get dropped off. They could drop off their younger child on the way. So basically, there's an existing program, and then we're just going to be housing in a new facility.
Thank you.
Can you remind me, did you tell us what the income mix was or the AMI? I know it's 60% and below, but was there a breakdown? Apologize if I missed that.
Yeah, so all the units are 60% AMI. Yeah, and then to speak a little on why we chose to split them up the way we did. I know Grayson mentioned earlier that the kind of the mix of families with children and also families with 55 and plus. We wanted to have enough one bedrooms for people who are empty nesters whose kids have gone away or who have retired. But we also recognized that we had limited square footage and, building a lot of three bedrooms would not be practical in this scenario just because of the amount of space that we have to offer. So when we came up with our unit mix, we were thinking, what's appropriate amount of space for each unit and who lives in the community and who's most likely to need housing. Yeah, that was kind of what went into our thoughts there.
Great, thank you. I wanted to just bring up one thing. If you go to your slide with the funding sources, you've got two sources with just a $100,000, I believe. Yeah, the sale program and Jacksonville affordable housing. Just from a developer's perspective, borrowing only $100,000 is probably not worth it, not worth all of the, just the paperwork, red tape, compliance that might come along with those sources. So I would suggest that maybe you consider deferring that $200,000 in addition to your 50,000 or 49, just as a global perspective on sourcing.
That would help de-risk the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things we were struggling with was the challenge of land being free, and just that changed up a lot of our financials. We were looking at it like, why do we need so little deferred fee? And we don't really need that many soft sources. And I think that the fact that we were getting the land from the city made this a little bit challenging. But yeah, I see what you mean with these soft programs. It's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time. So yeah, it would make sense.
And the other consideration could have been deeper targeting to do some 50% units or 30% units, because you sort of have some cushion here. But either way, it's a math problem.
Yeah, I think to go off of that just briefly, we're thinking about it as just to demonstrate that we're aware of these programs, and if regulations were to change due to the uncertainty with, you have Doge trying to defund a lot of these programs with HUD specifically, that, we have the infrastructure in place if things were to change around LIHTC or tax exempt bonds. And these are very well funded soft debt programs. But as you mentioned, it's probably not worth the brain damage to go through it if it's only for $200,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So we'll have to leave it there, and we will say thank you to Regatta Grove. So you all can feel free, you should log off now, and we will post the judge's decision on Canvas, and we'll ultimately post their comments as well once those are ready for you all. But thank you very much.
Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it, Alex.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. We'll get started then. So, all right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We are Community Nest Development, and we're presenting our vision for Eartha Gardens, an affordable housing property in Jacksonville, Florida. But before we get into the details, just want to introduce our team. I'm Alexander Lin, and I'm joined by Logan Nyborg, Luke Anderson, and Amanpreet Sarah. So to get into our vision for the property, we're envisioning a 24-unit affordable housing property in the east side of Jacksonville on a half-acre site with 24 surface parking lot spots, as well as a dedicated community event space and rooftop garden. It'll be 100% affordable housing at or below 60% AMI, and will be completed with 4% LIHTC. And this property brings value to the east side community by increasing the affordable housing supply by 24 units, promoting healthy living and access to healthy meal options in a food insecure community, and recognizing the culture and community of the east side neighborhood through our community event space. We'll get more into the capital stack later in the presentation, but just for now, I want to stress that we're targeting $11.1 million budget and a 5.3% return on asset. And now to get into an overview of the market. Jacksonville has an extremely strong economy as the 10th most populated U.S. city, with high employment, high multifamily occupancy at 91%, and a high net absorption of 7.2 thousand in the last quarter of 2024. As for the affordable housing market, there's a very strong demand given that nearly half of Jacksonville households are considered cost burden, meaning a large portion of their income is spent on rent. But at the same time, there's a shortage in supply, and there's an estimated shortage of 35,000 units of affordable housing. And the situation on the east side is even more challenging. The median household income is 23.2 thousand. Nearly 2/3 of residents fall below the poverty line, and housing prices tend to average over 65,000. And most property there is single family housing. So this creates a strong need for affordable options. And now just to get into an overview of Jacksonville's economy. As for area median incomes, the current number as of the most recent available data was 67,000 in 2023. It's seen steady growth in recent years following a dip in the mid-2010s. And we project this to increase by 0.9% in the coming years. As per population, we've seen a steady increase, and we project this to continue at 2% based on the historic growth rate. And it grew even throughout the pandemic, so we fully expect growth, and of course, this will increase the demand for housing, and potentially raise rents, which is concerning. And the situation with employment is also very strong. We've seen steady employment growth and a steady rise in earnings. Again, just demonstrating the city's strong economy. So who will live in our development? Well, the East Side 32206 zip code has an average age of 36 and an average family size of 2.4. Recognizing these local demographic conditions, we're targeting a strong emphasis on 2 bedrooms with 12 units being 2 bedrooms, and then 1 bedrooms having 6 units, and 3 bedrooms having another 6 units. So as we build this property, we want to reflect the goals of those who know this community best and care about this community the most. And that's, of course, the local nonprofits of LiftJax, the Historic Eastside Community Development Corporation, as well as LISC Jacksonville. And some of the goals of these organizations include preserving Eastside's culture and heritage, preventing displacement and gentrification, improving public health and quality of life, as well as providing services and activities to eliminate poverty and support financial stability among residents. And now, moving on to the location, I'll pass it off to Logan.
Thank you, Alex. Eartha Gardens is served by the JTA 11 bus, which travels along Route 11 from the northeast and to the central side of Jacksonville. Our bus stop is located on the corner of Florida Avenue and East 1st Street, the southeast corner of our site. We plan to collaborate with the city to improve the bus stop and serve the transit needs of our residents. Next, I'd like to take the opportunity to share about Ready Ride, which is a service provider that offers affordable on-call transportation all around Jacksonville for as little as $2. Their door-to-store program is in partnership between the JTA and the city of Jacksonville that provides free rides like Uber to grocery stores and to the North Side Ready Ride zone for our residents. Next slide, please. Here we go. Additionally, here we have 3 grocery stores and convenience stores, all within a 10-minute bus ride. Note that our residents have access to Ready Rides to Corner at Deb's and Harvey's Supermarket, indicated by the red marking points. Additionally, for those who may not be able to afford the cost of groceries, we may have identified 3 additional resources for food insecurity, including 2 nearby churches and a city rescue mission, which serves over 200,000 hot meals per year to residents facing hunger. As depicted here, Eartha Gardens is in a prime location near many parks, a community center, and schooling. Additionally, we have 3 great employment opportunities nearby that are only a short commute away. These employers commonly hire individuals with limited formal education and provide on-the-job training, offering stable income and opportunities for advancement. Here are 4 comparable properties to Eartha Gardens. All properties are within 7 years of age and are income restricted. Looking at our rent comps, Eartha Gardens falls on average 6% below affordable comps when comparing across all bedroom types, and 30% below market on average when comparing all bedroom types. Taking a look at some of the risks this project faces, first, we have the potential stigma against affordable housing from the wider community, especially with a large apartment building coming onto this market. To mitigate this, we plan to include an event space to demonstrate our commitment to the wider East Side community. Next, we budgeted a construction contingency of 5%. As we know, unexpected issues can happen in the building process. Regarding weather risk, we all know Florida weather. So with this, we plan to build with quality features, including stormwater systems and an extensive insurance in case something happens. Next, let's dive into the specifics of our development and site plans. I'll pass it over to Luke, who will take us through the property details and our vision for the building.
Thank you, Logan. Our project honors the East Side's heritage by naming it after Eartha Whites, a Jacksonville native and lifelong advocate for the city. Her Clara White mission has supported Jacksonville since 1920. Architecturally speaking, we are incorporating wooden siding to match the traditional shotgun homes found throughout the neighborhood. We found that this will help our development blend in while also celebrating the East Side's historical and cultural roots. Regarding the rendering of our building, residents will enter through a secure lobby, which ensures safety and peace of mind. We have a dedicated community room and office on the first floor for gathering and events, as well as a central courtyard that provides outdoor space for relaxation and activities. We have surface parking with entrances on both sides of the building for convenient access, which makes it very easy for residents and visitors to come and go. Sustainability is a key focus in our design. The building includes a green roof for added insulation and stormwater management. There's also solar panels to generate renewable energy. We've added bike racks on both sides of the building to make cycling easy and accessible for everyone. Plus, residents can take advantage of the dedicated bike lane right on First Street at the bottom of your screen, making it even more convenient to choose biking as a way to get around. At the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, we've also upgraded the bus station, equipping it with solar panels, which also makes transportation more accessible and environmentally friendly. Next slide shows our first floor plan for Eartha Gardens. Our building has 4 floors, 24 units, 24 parking spaces, and a total area of 24,000 square feet. The first floor features 6 one-bedroom apartments, a central lobby, an office, and a community room. Here, we really wanted our layout to foster accessibility, comfort, and a sense of community for our residents. Next, I would like to share some of our amenities, our community room and our office. The community room is a flexible, resident-focused space designed for education, counseling, and social events. On the right side of your screen, we have our dual-space office. We expect both building management and nonprofit partners who offer on-site support and services to utilize the space. Here, we have included features to make Eartha Gardens more inviting and functional for residents. Our courtyard features a garage-style door that opens directly into this space, which can host larger and more flexible events that can move easily between indoor and outdoor. Featured on the right is dedicated space where residents can interact and grow plants. Our rooftop green space also actually helps absorb heat and lowers cooling costs. A big part of what makes Eartha Gardens special is our partnership with local nonprofits to offer on-site, community-based programming for residents. On the right side of your screen, you can see an example of a weekly programming schedule that includes everything from career training and STEM education to counseling sessions and after-school activities. By providing these resources right where people live, we're making it pretty easy for residents to access opportunities and support. Let me quickly walk you through how these features will work in practice. For the rooftop garden, a building manager will handle maintenance, but residents can get involved by planning and managing their own fruits and vegetables, which really encourages community engagement. The office space is set up for local nonprofits and administration, giving them a dedicated spot for planning and daily operations. And our community room is meant for residents to socialize, work, or host events, with plenty of tables, chairs, and frequent activities led by local nonprofits. Each space is designed to make it easier for people to connect and get involved. Looking at how our development aligns with the community needs. For affordability, we provide 24 new units for people earning at or below the 60% AMI. On the culture side, our design uses the traditional architectural style found in the neighborhood, as well as honors Eartha White, a historical local figure. Sustainability is built in through rooftop solar panels, garden space, and infrastructure improvements. Through our courtyard and community space, we're also creating spaces for neighbors to connect. Overall, every aspect of this development is intentionally aligned with what the East Side community values and needs most. That concludes the site and development portion of our presentation. Now I'd like to introduce Aman, who will walk us through the financials for Eartha Gardens.
Thank you, Luke. And now moving on to our financials. Our development budget is outlined here with our construction costs accounting for $8.3 million, which is the largest portion, and this puts our total to about 11 million. This balances with our sources also totaling 11 million. Our capital stack consists of federal solar and LIHTC credits, as well as bond and gap financing from Jacksonville and Federal Home Loan Bank. Our deferred fee was purposely chosen to ensure that our total could be paid off within 10 years with cash flows after debt service. Continuing onward, we have many sustainable features as mentioned earlier. Our communal bike rack provides residents an option to use their own bike for transportation with a safe location to park. Our property originally included a bus station, which we decided to redevelop to provide a safe, reliable shelter for our residents. And our urban greening provides a 4,000 square foot rooftop garden, which we hope promotes community interaction and provides a unique solution to food insecurity concerns. Outlined here, we have our operations breakdown for the 15-year stabilized. Our key assumptions used for these projections were an 8-month absorption period and no soft debt service paid. And now for our conclusion. To recap, our target population are cost-burdened individuals who have a desire to be near education, food, and employment. 100% of our units are AMI restricted up to 60%. There's a clear need for affordable housing in this area. Jacksonville's hourly wage is 9.3% below the national average, despite a drastic 38.2% increase in the national rents. And as we wrap up, we'd like to highlight some of our defining features. As for our amenities, we include a community room that's designed for events and garden and workshops. This space includes a garage door to take advantage of the beautiful Florida weather and a dual-use office for both nonprofit partners and our leasing agents. For our services, we focus on partnering with local nonprofits. We work with them to create a weekly schedule of services, including training, counseling, and youth programs. These are specifically tailored for the Eastside community. Our development features many sustainable aspects to ensure our development gives back to its local community. And with that, we'll open it up for questions. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today.
I'm trying to let Michael go first because I feel like I always do.
No, I think this was a really well done presentation. There was really nothing that I had additional questions about. So Stacy, if you do, I'll let you go ahead.
Whitney, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, very nice presentation, clean, simple to follow. A lot of good research around the community and partnerships. Appreciate that. I would like to ask a question, a little quick on the financials. I'd like to go back to those, but also the architecture, because you did spend a good amount of time talking about architecture and, kind of following the shotgun houses and the materials, but I just wanted to, but it's a fairly simple building, and I wondered if you gave thought to doing something maybe a little more contextual in the neighborhood other than just the materials. And forgive us, I mean, I don't know if there's an architect or designer on your team, if one of you comes from that world, or if you're much more just focused on financing and real estate. But if you wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Well, I think I think definitely none of us are architects personally, so there's not a lot of expertise in that department on like all the styles out there. But I think one thing that we really noticed was just the material, and that, like, as you can see on that photo, like the shotgun homes mainly incorporate siding, and it's often like a yellow color or maybe a blue color. And so mainly with the color and the material, that's where that kind of came in. But I think our main focus with the architectural design, like with our courtyard, is really just to present that like image of openness to the community and to really show that, while we do have, 24 units and however many residents comes with that, we also have an emphasis on the surrounding community, the neighbors to the property who live around there. So I think with our architectural style, we do incorporate the materials to reflect the community, but also our general style of having that courtyard and having the windows to our community room really just tries to project that image of openness to the community and welcoming.
Yeah, no, thank you. And that's a really nice touch to do the garage doors and have this indoor outdoor space, especially in Jacksonville with the great weather. So I appreciated that. And I think it will get a lot of use, which is great for not just the residents, but for the broader community. So great. Then if you go back to the sources, I didn't, it moved a little quickly through that, so I didn't capture it all. I think the next slide, perhaps. Yeah, this one. Just kind of wanted to maybe walk through this a little bit more. You have a fairly low bond ask.
Who are your
And then the,
soft debt? Who's providing the soft debt on this
yeah,
in the
yeah.
capital stack?
We found two different sources for that. So right now this is a combination of 2.5 million for the two, but we found some from the city of Jacksonville itself, and then also Federal Home Loan Bank with some space in there that we found that they have a little bit of financing that they could provide as well.
What is the Federal Home Loan Bank? Do they have deeper targeting requirements? Are you where you would need some 30% units and 50% units in there?
From the resources or like from the requirements that we saw that our AMI requirements fit within that. And so that was like one of the main things that we saw, unless there was something that we missed, but that was like one of the things that we saw, and we saw that that would work with our model that we have right now and who we're targeting for this.
Yeah. And also I think it was 2 million. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Armand, but I think it was 2 million maximum that you can request from
That was for
the
Jacksonville,
project.
yeah. So that was the Jacksonville
Okay.
million max.
Okay, then you show pretty significant again, can we go to the next slide with your NOI, your operating numbers? I think, yeah. So cash flow of in year 15 of 64,000. Okay, so that's a pretty good. So I assume that you've assumed kind of 60% AMI rents. Is that okay? All
So
right.
we have it. So we're trying to get the payment deferred fee. That's why we chose a lower amount for the deferred fee to make sure it gets paid off within the 10 years. And then ideally, we don't have this in this model, but for the future, to make sure our soft debt is also paid, we'd be using some of those cash flows after debt service, the 64,000 later on, to also pay off some of the soft debt to make sure that we're also getting that taken care of along the way as well.
Can you pay off 2 million in soft debt along with deferred fee in 15
We wouldn't be
years?
able to do it fully in 15 years, but it would get us at least a little bit closer once we get past the 8-year period of paying off the deferred fee and putting some of our expenses towards that afterwards.
Okay. Okay, well, it's good. It's nice to see you giving it thought and appreciate that. So what did you feel like was most important or most missing in the neighborhood other than just affordable housing?
We saw that honestly, when we were looking at what type of amenities to include and stuff like that, we saw that the neighborhood had a lot of resources around it. There was a lot of places where there was, especially for the food insecurity concerns, there was local churches with food and things like that. There was schools nearby. There's a park nearby. There's the daycare centers that are nearby. So what we really wanted to do was we wanted to bring something that was a lot of different uses at once. And that's why we emphasized having something where we work with like local nonprofits to program multiple different things, because we couldn't really decide on one permanent solution because we felt like the community provided there was really beneficial amenities in the area, and we wanted to take advantage of those while also providing a space that gives a couple of other options that can be rotating and functional to a lot of different people. And I don't know if anyone else on my team wants to expand on that or their thoughts as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like, and there's so much with the nonprofits, as we mentioned, like they're already providing so many services to the community, and I think like having that community space where we partner with nonprofits like Lift Jacks and the Historic East Side Redevelopment Corporation, as well as LISC, having that space sort of doesn't offload the work onto them, but lets them do what they do best in organizing those types of events and providing them a space where they can connect with the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as I'll add to that as well, as like the world changes, we never know what the next day brings. This space is flexible where we can bring in different partners. You know, if we need somebody else to come in and help out in a different area, it's definitely flexible enough to incorporate other nonprofits as well.
Great.
Anything else?
Thank you.